welcome back, and thanks so much for tuning in to Off the Roll Podcast by Stek. This is episode 6. The question is, why Stek? Today I have with me Stephen Trapp of Star Auto Salon, and they are a local shop that has absolutely been flourishing since bringing Stek on board. And so we wanted to bring Stephen in to talk a little bit about that transition from having a shop with not offering paint protection film to introducing that, and then also what that's been like for his clientele and how for you folks as the car owner might benefit from some of the variety that Stek has to offer. So just jumping in, Stephen, thanks so much for joining, taking some time out of the busy shop life to jump on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We're excited to talk about you a little bit more. And I think the best place to start is probably just explaining how long you've been in this industry. What was that kind of like as far as when you got in? Did you have experience, or did you just kind of decide one day to jump ship?
So I kind of started getting into paint protection film 21. Between like 2016 and 2020 was kind of a focusing a lot on just like detailing and ceramic coatings. Ceramic coatings got real popular in that time. Yeah. Paint protection film was popular, but it was kind of like this giant that you're like, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah. Trying to approach the giant.
Yeah, it's like, how do you put that on there? Because you've seen so many bad installs from like dealerships. You're like, there's no way people are good at this.
Like, why would I be any better?
Yeah, so I was like, I'll just do what I'm good at, and that's making cars shiny. So then, was it 2020? We were cooking. We were doing very well. We'd been dabbling it a little bit by just kind of subletting it to another company, and I was. Over time, I'm just kind of like, you look at your numbers, you're like, wow, like this is a rather large investment I'm making for very low profits. Let's look at seeing if I can invest in myself a little bit and learn how to do this. Right around end of 2020, Stek just started with their training program a little bit. I think they'd only done like when Robert came on at the end of 2020 because the COVID was all a nightmare. So Robert reached out to me and was like, hey, like, can you beta test the class for me? And I was like, sure. I was like, yeah, dude. Like, I'm friends with John. I was like, anything to help your guys' company. I was like, come do it. And
sign me up.
Yeah, I was like, so I paid for the class and was like, all right, I'm going to go do it. And got my hands on the film and I was like, oh, like, I kind of understand this a little bit. And I was like, and then it got my wheels turning. I was like, well, if I'm going to be a protection shop, why aren't I selling all the protection? I was like, I sell ceramics and I talk to people about film, but then I'm letting those clients go somewhere else to get film. And those people are offering ceramics.
Yeah.
So my marketing is paying for other people
to get some business.
To get business. So I was like, so I'm going to take this really seriously. I'm going to try it. And when we decided to bring it on, like first day of class, I was like, it was so foreign to me. And I was like, oh, it's like a chef and a baker. Like, I'm a chef. I'll brute force anything and get it to look good. Film, you're like, okay, like you have to do this and you have to do it like systematically. And I had to unlearn a lot of things like that. But when we took the class, I was very comfortable afterwards. And I'm talking like, I went from like no film experience and I was like, I just know it looks good because I've seen a lot of bad installs, to being like, no experience, to being like, okay, so like the first week out, I was like, all right, I guess I called you and I was like, I want to finance film and a plotter. And I was like, I'm just going to do it, right? We had just signed a lease with a new location to expand our shop a little bit, give us some more space. I was like, now's the time. So we started selling film almost immediately after we started, after I took the class. So probably the first like week after leaving the class, I just changed some things on our marketing side and just started being like, okay, yeah, I'll take the jobs. Yeah. And I told my clients, I was like, I didn't discount it at all. I was like, I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm new at this. I'm only going to do it for 50% off or whatever. Just, sure. I was like, I'm going to charge what I'm going to charge and I'm going to do it till it looks good.
Yeah. Even if that means removing and redoing multiple times.
And so that's what I did. And we started to kind of like grow in this little space a little bit. Looking back, what I thought were good installs, like we've fixed a lot of things.
Of course, naturally.
And when, and we had to bulk a lot of stuff too, because when I ordered the plotter, we had that whole thing where it was, we did the video to have Robert show how to unbox it, put it all together, and it was shipped broken.
Yeah.
And then
Love that.
with like the supply chain shortages in like 21. So from like from the start of 21 to almost like it was like June, right? I had to kind of just learn to bulk everything.
Yeah,
and then,
which is not easy for those that don't do films. Starting with bulk means that you're looking at this really complex shape and you have this two-dimensional object you have to make conform perfectly. When you have a template that is a little bit more easy to visualize, and you're like, okay, I'll start here, I'll do this. But when you're bulking, it's kind of all hands are on deck.
Square peg, round hole, And so then I would actually call, and one reason why I'm such a big fan of Stek is just whatever you need, we're going to make it right. And they've been a huge fan of me, and I've been a huge fan of their company. So, like, we've built a pretty great relationship across the board. So that first 6 months was very showing us how Stek was as a company, as a film company. And, it's one reason why I've definitely stuck by. It's just because, there's a problem, but it's not your fault. But they went above and beyond to make it right. But it was also kind of nice because I had to learn a lot in a little bit of time. And I was like, okay, so I had really had to learn how to trim right. Didn't want to cut paint, so it was a ton of practicing. I was using my own car.
Yep.
I was like,
you will cut through eventually.
Yeah,
right?
So I was like, I actually that's what I did was like I'd put film on my car that I had a vinyl wrap on.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I knew if I would cut through the film, I was going to cut the vinyl wrap, which I was going to take off anyway.
Yeah. And then you can see if you cut too.
So I was like, that was one way I started practicing. But, learning how to bulk was huge for us because we learned about fitment. So then when we got the plotter, we started seeing a lot of fractures in the programming. Being like, okay, so like, why is it like this? So then I started doing a lot of stuff with like pattern manipulation.
Sure.
And then started editing all the patterns, and I'll spend a ton of time just making sure that we're getting the right coverage across the board.
Yeah.
So it's
it's kind of a bittersweet, in hindsight, it was actually maybe a good challenge.
And it was kind of one of those sink or swim situations. Like, like I to get the plotter, to get the film, to get the tools to start, I financed everything.
Yeah.
I was like, so now I had a payment. And I was like, okay, so I need to at least make the payment to make this work. And like, being a detailer and like someone from the ceramic side, like, like my product cost used to be like $1,000 a month, right?
Sure.
Like, and then you go into film, and every time I pick up the phone, I feel like I'm buying a new car.
Yeah. Skyrocket. It is a huge difference when you're jumping from coatings and smaller portion products to these 50-foot rolls and 5 feet wide and stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was crazy. So like I'm still trying to like navigate that whole side of it. When I was so new, I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to finance the film, I'm just going to get started. And then once I got started, I really leaned on Robert to being like, what should I do next? And then, 6 months later, right around July, August, I hired my first film installer, Dakota.
Nice.
And we've been absolutely just crushing it ever since.
Yeah.
So
busy.
Having somebody that was like comes from the film world, that has the same vision to help us kind of like, it's added training for me, but also like I'm very hands off. So I'm like, hey, like, I'm not going to like tell the painter how to paint. Like, he's an artist, so I'm going to let him do him. Yeah. Just tell him when it's going to be done.
Yeah.
So like
respect the craft.
Yeah, right. And he's very talented. Dakota. He's done tint stuff at SEMA.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then by having that added person, we were able to really continue the upward growth. And 2020, we doubled our sales from 21. Or from 2020 to 21, we doubled. And then from 21 to 22, we doubled again.
Beautiful. That's huge. Compounding annually, which is easier said than done.
And it's been very rapid. And once you get over like a certain dollar amount, you start to see like the fractures in like your company. You're like, oh, okay, so like, the difference between $5 and making $50, like, oh, there's a lot more that goes into that 50.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, and it doesn't just like scale gradually. So you're like, oh, okay, so now I'm going to need to like think at like credit options and things like that, and you know, how to utilize, you know, point cards and things like that. Because like, you know, what's going to give me the best payoff in return, knowing that I take my team to see them every year, right?
Yeah.
Well, so if I use a travel card, well then our film that we buy throughout the year pays for their trip type of thing.
Yeah.
And then
Excellent.
leaves me a little bit more money to gamble, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Making smart business choices all the way around.
100%.
That's excellent. Well, I think you touched on a really good point a little bit earlier too, and just to go back to that, you said that, you know, you were a protection company and you weren't offering film yet. And for those that are new to protecting their cars, paint protection film, in my opinion, and I think this will be backed up pretty widely, is one of the most durable layers of protection you can put on your vehicle. It is likely going to be one of the more highly priced, you know, protection packages, if you will. But having that tangible layer that will take the impact, it is self-sacrificial, opposed to maybe a coating where it is really bonded to that substrate, and it's more of like a scratch resistant than it is hard rock chip and scratch, you know, resistant. So I think from just you know, customer standpoint, you're potentially offering more value to those folks as well. And with all that new business that came in after you guys started doing the film and doubling year after year, that is amazing, and props to you. It's not, you know, that easy as far as just working. I'm sure there's a lot of long hours, finding some help, and that's a lot of work as well. But what has been kind of the shift in some of that clientele that you've seen in terms of even the cars that you're working on, or just what people are looking for, the conversations that you're having? Has that shifted since adding PPF as a service?
Oh, 100%. So like we went from like a detailing and coating shop, which is a lot of reconditioning. Mm-hmm. So being a shop that did, you know, mold remediations, paint corrections, theft recoveries, things like that, those are very labor intensive, and they're kind of gross. Mm-hmm. And they pay well, but the idea is, you know, you're doing a lot of like fixing things that are old, mm-hmm. right? Now, since offering paint protection film, we're protecting things that are new. Yeah. So the shift has gone from like, you know, trying to convince someone to take care of something they already let get, you know, out of sorts, mm-hmm. to like someone who's like, I just bought this really nice thing and it's my first one and I want to take care of it. Yeah. Right? And the way you were talking is like, yeah, so paint protection film, you attribute it to being a layer over the surface, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you have a hardwood floor, right? Some people mm-hmm. wax their floors. Some people don't do anything. Yeah. Some people will put an area rug down, mm-hmm. right? So like the area rug is going to protect the floor from a lot of things more than just leaving the floor open. Yeah. You know, same with the cell phone case, things like that. So you have this different clientele base of people that value the things that you're selling. Yeah. And it makes selling a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Probably more enjoyable too, by the sounds of it. In terms of, one, obviously nice new cars are nicer to look at, but just that conversation, they're more excited. It's not like, oh, can you bring this back? It's, I'm excited to have this. How can you help me? And exactly. Make it their own.
And then, you know, with the fashion films, we're able to kind of like add a little custom touch, which is something that our shop is kind of known for, is like, yes, we'll do the front end film, the ceramic coatings, the full body wraps, but what else can we do that's a little bit different? Yeah. That will, you know, I say get lost at the supercharger.
Sure.
Like every Tesla looks the same.
Right.
So like, what can we do that's slightly different to make your car feel a little bit more personalized? Yeah. Right. And the fashion films help with that a lot. They're super unique. They're the best looking films out there. A little harder to work with, mm-hmm. but they've allowed us to expand this almost like customization side of our brand, where it's like, hey, like, you know, I know we're here to wrap your car in matte, mm-hmm. but, you know, if we add carbon fiber here, forged carbon fiber there, mm-hmm. right, we can do these little touches that are just going to kind of like, not overly do it, but mm-hmm. add to it.
Yeah, it just kind of elevates the whole presence of those cars. And to your point, you have high quality, and if it is a nicer, newer car, you need a nice product that's going to live up to that, you know, image as well.
Absolutely.
And that's where, you know, we are confident and really proud to have as good looking films as we do, because they can go on those brand new GT4s and still look the part. So.
Yeah, the GT4 we're working on right now is a mind bender.
Oh yeah, yeah. I hear those. What is it? The fenders are pretty hard on those.
Yeah. So, and we're doing the car in the satin clear carbon fiber. Mm.
Dang, the whole thing.
The whole thing. And then we're doing a matte roof, and then we're using the gloss carbon fiber to put a Porsche logo on top of it.
Yeah.
To make it look like it had almost like a reverse carbon fiber roof that had been painted satin.
Kind of embossed.
Yeah, because it got the Wyzak package, so it's got all the gloss carbon fiber. So we're tying into that. And then also the hardest part is making sure that all the weave goes the right way.
Sure.
Because we don't want the patterns to clash. So we're having to manipulate the pattern and design everything to flow over the car how the carbon fiber flows over the car originally.
Yeah.
So it's a mind bender.
Gotta get your creative hat on for that
Yeah,
one.
it's like, my technicians love when I'm like, hey, I have this idea. Whenever I say that, they're like, no. But then they're like, wow, that looks really good.
Yeah, at the end of it. A month later or whatever, maybe.
Yeah.
But
come back in 2 weeks. We'll check it out.
Yeah, cool. Awesome, man. Well, with that as well, what are some ways that your business has shifted? Have you been able, with hiring more staff, to focus on other things? And I know we were talking about in particular kind of your media presence that has been pretty unique and growing. Maybe you can speak towards that, and how has perhaps growing the business allowed you to have that more unique presence, and how did you define that for yourself?
Well, bringing on paint protection film led to more revenue, right? And when you have more revenue, then you have the ability to invest more. So paying my guys better, having the ability to invest in a media team. So right now I have a full-time video guy, editor, and then another part-time, we call him the intern.
Sure.
He's in high school, and he comes in and helps edit small reels, things like that, and then helps with the full-time guy just kind of help speed things along to where we can really have this creative media push and have a whole new department set aside to just, increase marketing reach, right?
Yeah.
Increase marketing reach, drive more revenue pays the bills, pays the technicians, feeds the marketing, feeds the sales, and then it's this big circle. And then eventually, the circle is self-sustaining. That's where I'm the hard part.
That's the hard part for sure. A lot of structure needs to get in place. And
I'd say that's where you see the fractures, right? You're like, okay, well, I never thought about needing a front desk person. And I was like, wow, I need an assistant.
Yeah.
It's like, my phone rings all day. And, when you're talking with these clients and you're selling a $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 job, right? That takes time. You're not just going to pick up the phone and be like, hey,
when can I come in?
Yeah, when can I come in? I'm gonna drop $10,000 in cash on your desk and leave.
Yeah.
Right? No, you got to explain the film, explain the process, explain the job, explain the build, and you got to get them to visualize what your idea for their car is.
Yeah.
Because you just bought their car, or they just bought their car, and then it's like, hey, bring it to some nebulous person. And he's like, let me design it for you.
Sure.
Right? So that that all takes time. So fielding emails and just little things ordering touch-up paint, super easy, falls through the cracks all the time.
Sure.
Right? So having somebody at the front desk just to greet the clients, check people in, check people out. Because now I've realized that my company's grown past the point of me being at the front.
Yeah.
Right? It's they need a point of communication because now we're going from this little isolated company into this almost national company because we have our product line now that we just launched and all this kind of other stuff that we're working on. It's wow, I can't be in two places at once. When you're the owner and you're not driving the revenue streams that we were, it sounds yeah, you do everything. I was now you can't.
Yeah.
So it's been a interesting growth process over the last year because you can, now that you have the ability to, you're how do I get to the next step? And that's why also Stek has been huge, is because the way that you guys have just helped steer the ship a little bit. Be hey, we're not going to tell you what to do, but you should probably do this.
Soft recommendation.
Yeah, hey, have you thought about this? Has been immensely helpful for us. So,
great, man. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. I know that all of our team works really hard to deliver that level of customer service. And to your point of hiring staff and going through that process that is a growing pain within itself. It's never easy. It's not quick, and to find good people and qualified people, you should be patient with that because that is going to be a super important aspect of growing any business, especially out of the gate, because those first employees are key players in that growth and in that business. So,
I think back in when I was 21, we were going to do the film, like there were only like 4 of you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's been a quick growth, for us too. And that's been really fun. I think, the most rewarding part for any of the sales staff, I'm pretty confident, is seeing our clients have success and see their own personal growth, professional growth, all the above. And it was really cool to be, in a spot where, we put our hard work in and we're seeing good growth ourselves. And we're working with great people like you that are local. You keep in touch, you stay friendly with us, you let us know what you're up to. And so that we get to see how your life is changing over the course of bringing in PPF, working with us, and just building that relationship. So it's all exciting. I think there's a lot of good optimism and good mentalities behind not only Stek, but also sounds like what you guys have going on. And that at the end of the day goes a long ways. That's what customers care about, is do these people care about my car? Will they treat it like their own? And are they, patient enough to meet me where I'm at and ultimately, make me comfortable leaving my car there?
Absolutely. I remember when Stek started growing, you sent me the nicest email and being like, hey, I can't stop calling me.
By the way, you have to work with someone else.
Yeah. Here's Esmeralda's number.
Yeah.
Call her. Yeah. And I was like, oh. I was like, and it was happy for me to see, because I'd seen the growth and I knew how thin you were stretched. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't want to hey, I need to order film. Just say yes and run the credit card.
Yeah, just get it out.
Yeah. But it's been amazing to see start to finish, the old training center to the new one, the old facility to this monstrosity.
Yeah.
And just how the SEMA booths have evolved over time and things like that, and just the sales team's always great. Every time I could have my film shipped to my shop and it'd be free shipping. Mm-hmm. I drive over here at least once a week just to say hi. I'll order film, come say hi. And it's just a way for me to also check in with them, right? Because, it's a very personal relationship we have, but also we're friends, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly. That's the biggest thing, is I'm not afraid to call Michael or Howard or even John.
Yeah. I think a lot of our staff recognizes just how busy that shop life is. And to your point of you're wearing all these hats, running around, you can't be in the front, but you're also getting pulled to the back. We do recognize that. And especially as you're adding a new service like PPF, there's so much that goes into it. You pulled the Band-Aid off, you financed it, which I think, by the way, is the right way to go. You just get comfortable, get your systems and process set up, and then you can just get rocking and rolling. And then that, revenue does come in. But to your point, our staff absolutely wants to be easygoing. There's a resource for you so that we're available. And ultimately, we're not here to twist your arm. If you don't want to use our film, there are other good options out there. But we believe that there's some good opportunities that Stek has that's unique to us and might keep you coming back.
Yeah.
So that's been good. So as we kind of wrap things up here, what are some goals for yourself at Blue Star? And do you see any clear kind of next steps, or is that continuing kind of path you're on with the media and building that cycle?
So the next big thing is our media team, getting them dialed, right? That way it can focus a lot more on marketing, so we can continue to grow our brand awareness. Mm-hmm. By doing that, it'll drive more sales, but also the idea is to kind of lessen the workload a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Right now there's a huge thing, which is just prices across the board are being slaughtered, mm-hmm. right? And, there's a lot of competition now, right? So, how are we trying to set ourselves apart from the competition? And that's showing that we're the spot to go to in our area. Yeah. Just like Metropolitan kind of sets the standard of bar for the east side, right? I've kind of taken the model and been okay, well, I'm going to set the bar and the standard for our side, right? Having John as a resource and a friend has just been huge for us. Great for me and my personal growth too. Amazing person, just helping me grow my company, right? Because he started when was it 2018? I was he was hey, let's go grab sushi. I was all right, sure,
sure.
What's up, dude? And we just kind of hit it off, and it was ever since then we've just been in constant communication. He was hey, when are you gonna do film? When are you gonna do film? Mm-hmm. I was I just don't think I can, but so seeing that and being okay, so you have to be the standard, right? You have to mm-hmm. Okay, so let's set a baseline and then let's work from there. And then being in communication with just other shops in our area too, to make sure that like, hey, like, let's all work together type of thing.
Yeah.
Maximizing our square footage in our shop is my next big thing, and just making sure that we're really focused on getting my technicians to where they want to be, and then where, them buying houses and things like that, which is I want them to so bad because I know how hard it is. Yeah. And then we launched our product line, so we have our Blue Star Auto Care line that we're starting to trickle out. We have our first 4 products to just kind of like have something to give our clients past what we're offering now. Because now, one other problem being a protection shop is like, hey, I'm selling 10 years of protection.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see this client once a year. Right? We can schedule them for maintenance things, and we can get them on these schedules and things like that, but not necessarily. That's not why they're buying the job to begin with. They're buying ease of maintenance, lower maintenance, better protection, long term.
Yeah. And that sounds like it makes it as easy as possible for them because it's in front of them.
Exactly.
They go to the same store, they swipe the same card, one transaction, they have their care chemicals and the finished product.
Yeah, so like here's the finished product. This is how you take care of it.
Yeah.
Right? And then if they have a problem, call me.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we're building it along the lines, and like that way we're just able to like kind of recapture some things and just, give the new front desk person that I haven't hired yet, I'm still looking, something to do as well, Got to keep them busy.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely, man.
yeah. But yeah, it's been a ride for sure. And I'm so happy with the product. So like starting paint protection film is one thing, but starting paint protection film with a product that's like Stek, it just made it a lot easier. Yeah. Like I wasn't fighting the film, I wasn't fighting the texturing. It was very forgiving. If we had to remove something or like, we had contamination or fuzz or whatever you get inside like a fender, if you have to like pop it up, flush it out, and stick it back down, it's like, it's not done. It has a lot of workability, which is very nice. And going through that first, 6 months of learning, having that forgiveness was very nice.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's everything we have for this episode. Thank you for Stephen for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in. Hope you found some of his insights very valuable. And if you're interested in PPF, you learned a little bit more about the options, a variety you can get creative with from Stek as well. Catch you on the next one.